Today on LA Currents, Anita Bennett takes us to Van Nuys to talk with Justin Erbacci, CEO of Los Angeles World Airports. They talk about the $2 billion economic benefit Van Nuys Airport has in the valley, as well as the overall plans for the 2026 World Cup and 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Later in the show, I sit down with Fiona Ma, who made history in her election as California State Treasurer, both as the first woman of color and as the first certified public accountant in the position. But to start, homelessness is an ongoing crisis in Los Angeles. Dr. Lecia Kellum, the new CEO of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, joins me in studio following the release of the 2023 homeless count results. Despite the staggering numbers, Dr. Kellum sees some optimism for the future. 3 nights, 6,000 volunteers, over 4,000 square miles, taking the Los Angeles homeless count. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm delighted to be joined today by the CEO of the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, otherwise known as LAHSA, Dr. Lecia Kellum. So great to have you here. It was a little disconcerting and a little shocking to see the numbers. Up 10% in the city, 9% in the county. You know, this is really the first time that you've been in the office to be able to grab these numbers, see what it means. What did it say to you when you saw it?
Well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. And it was really hard for all of us to see those numbers. They were shocking, they're deeply alarming, and we have a lot of work to do here in Los Angeles. And I think while this is a time of great concern, never before have we seen the level of potential collaboration between Mayor Bass in the city and the Board of Supervisors at the county.
Let's get to work.
Absolutely. And me at LAHSA, ready to continue to lock arms and elevate our partnership.
What is going into place to make that cooperative effort work?
Well, I think the most important first step was that the mayor called a state of emergency, day one of her administration, followed by the state of emergency called by the Board of Supervisors. We must speed up the process of moving people from encampments into housing, and we must remove all barriers and red tape. We're already seeing less days from an encampment to permanency than we've seen in the past. That trend is very encouraging. And you have the city and county making sure that the providers are aligned and have the resources they need. Say there's 25 encampments and there's a person that's going to be leading the effort. They're going to be out there understanding there's 25, there's 30 encampments. What's the array of issues? We need mental health here. We need folks with drug and alcohol background training. We need someone with lived experience or an army of folks with lived experience. We want to have maybe security personnel there, and oftentimes LAPD is on call, maybe not on site, but on call. Sanitation services are going to be there as well. And all of these entities meeting at the same time every day, pointing out where we're going to go. That's how the mayor was able to get over 1,000 people housed in her first 100 days. Our goal is to get to 200 and 300 people a week.
Have you seen, and are you seeing progress in this cooperation?
We are seeing results. People are responding. People in encampments want to be indoors. For the mayor, again, to bring over 1,000 people in and 80% success rate, meaning we bring people in and they stay in. It means the service providers are doing a great job making people feel good and settled and giving them the resources that they need to move along. We also measure our success by how long does it take to move a person from an encampment into permanency.
Right.
And we are seeing that that is shrinking by number of days. I mean, when we were starting this out a couple years ago at St. Joseph Center, we basically said, look, we could have a person in interim 6 months to a year. We're seeing people moving through the system sometimes in 60 or 90 days. And sure, the mayor is saying, oh, we want to speed this up. I want to move people much faster, and we agree, and we're working on that. But we're already seeing less days from an encampment to permanency than we've seen in the past. That trend is very encouraging. And then there's this notion of how long does it take a person to get from the interim to permanent, and really how long when a building goes up and it's got a certificate of occupancy, how long does it take to fill the building? And that's another thing we hear from the mayor and from the board of supervisors, that they want us to move much faster in this process. And so overall, we used to see over 365 days, over a year. And then we got down to, maybe 6 months. Of late, we've, 120 days. And of late, we've gotten down to about 45 days that it takes from certificate of occupancy to move in. And our goal is to get closer now to 15 to 30 days. And all of that is coming about as a result of many, many teams at the city and county level getting together to say, okay, we need to coordinate. Who should we be focusing on, right? Like together, and saying, okay, let's focus on the people who have documents. They're ready to go. So we call this document readiness. Okay, let's focus on that group. They're ready to go. It makes sense. And also we've been talking about a universal application. Wow, people can fill this out online. They don't have to get a ride to a building and stand in line. And all of those are things that will increase access and speed of getting people from interim to permanency.
People need three things. They need something to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And in a very odd way, that community is even created on the streets in these encampments, because they have, relationships, friends, families, animals. How is that psychological, human part of this issue being addressed? Because it's not just, I'm going to put you in a hotel room, I'm going to put you in an apartment, I'm going to put you in, I might be able to get you a job. Where's that, I'm a person with needs of a community and needs to know someone cares about me and needs to, raise me up.
Well, I agree with the three things you said, and I would say connection, purpose, and hope.
Got it.
And that's why we've always believed that the outreach mechanism, the person that provides outreach to the person on the bench, in the park, in the tent, is so important. Because that human connection, that person saying, I'm here, I care about you. And I was talking to a group of folks and they were saying, well, why is it that it seems that sometimes people who are on the streets, they don't want help? And I said, well, have you ever had something bad happen and you're with friends or family and they circle around, and what's the first thing we do? We go, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. It's just a human instinct. And especially if you've lived your life experiencing trauma or rejection, hurt, pain, poverty, you get really used to going, I'm okay.
Or I don't trust you.
I don't trust you, I don't want it, etc. And that's why we say in outreach, you keep coming back and you stay consistent, because you never know if it's going to be the 20th time or the 55th time that you say, hey, what can I do for you, that the person says yes. So we do rebuild connection and community by having that outreach worker. Eventually it becomes the community in the interim housing space or in the permanent housing space is so important. And purpose, as you said, working, giving back, joining the group that's advocating on behalf of people who are unhoused. All of that brings purpose and hope, knowing that the situation they're in is not the end game. It's where they are, and it doesn't have to remain that way. And we have to deliver that sense of hope. I think that's why this moment is so important, because we all need hope, right? The citizens of LA and the county of Los Angeles need to know that things are going to get better. There's a new LAHSA in place to do that, and I think all of that helps us have a sense of hope. We've all, those of us who are in this work, have imagined ourselves in a tent, and imagine how isolating and lonely that feels. And I think that's why the folks who we're able to help are so grateful, because they realize that they're not alone. And they realize that there are folks in office, a mayor, board of supervisors, council members, who care, who've dedicated their lives to trying to address this crisis. That sense of hope, of knowing that they don't have to continue to live in despair is so important.
Everyone knows and talks about LAX, but did you know that CEO Justin Erbacci also oversees the sister airport at Van Nuys? Anita Bennett met up with Erbacci to talk about the future of both.
Well, if you've been to LAX or Van Nuys airports recently, you know there are a lot of changes on the horizon. Those changes are part of modernization efforts, and we are at Van Nuys Airport to find out what's going on. Joining us now is Justin Erbacci. You are the CEO of Los Angeles World Airports. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
All right, so Justin, as CEO, what does your job entail?
So as CEO of Los Angeles World Airports, I have the privilege of helping to manage two airports within the city of Los Angeles. Los Angeles International Airport, or LAX, and Van Nuys General Aviation Airport here. And the job entails all aspects of operating those airports and making sure that they're safe and secure for passengers and for employees. And that also entails a lot of different aspects as well. So there's a whole aspect around modernization of the airport. That's the construction that we're doing to improve or build new facilities. Then there's also the commercial aspects, so the concessions and the leases to the airlines and to various entities that lease our facilities. Then we have also a lot of initiatives around sustainability and around inclusivity and equity and around the community. So those are all aspects that we have to manage for operating both of those airports.
What role does Van Nuys play in the overall LAWA system?
So from our perspective, Van Nuys is very important. It's one of the busiest, if not the busiest, general aviation airport in the country.
Well, what does general aviation mean?
So general aviation is non-commercial airline activities. So charter flights, private airplane takeoff and landings and parking here, maintenance of charter aircraft. It's just not the type of commercial airlines where you go and you pre-book a flight at a specific time at a specific location. So that's it's covered by a different regulation from the FAA and then LAX. So LAX is a full commercial airport and it can do all kinds of activity. But here, because it's a general aviation airport, they can't conduct commercial activity as that normally is known with major airlines flying in and out of here at preset times.
Mm-hmm. I see a law enforcement vehicle driving by, so what are the security measures here?
So we have the largest airport police department in the country that protects both LAX and Van Nuys. So it's the same department, we just have different management here from within that department, but both are covered by our airport police division, and they make sure that they keep the airports safe and secure.
How busy is this airport? About how many planes use it?
One of the busiest, if not the busiest, general aviation airport in the country. And we had approximately 230,000 operations last year. That's both takeoffs and landings. And that's all different types of activities. So you have charter flights that come in and out of here. You have people who have their own airplanes who fly in and out of here or store their planes here. You have airplanes that just come here and pick up or drop off and then leave. They're not based here. And they use one of our fixed base operators here where they go to have their passengers rest before or after the flight and have their pilots rest. They get their aircraft maintained, serviced, and gas up at those facilities. And we have flight schools here as well. And then we have a lot of emergency equipment here for both LA Fire Department and LA County Fire Department activities. We also have a lot of helicopters here that are used for medical emergencies, and so there's a lot of different type of activity that goes on here at Van Nuys.
You know, Van Nuys Airport is often described as an economic driver in the media. So what does that mean? Is it an economic driver in the city or the San Fernando Valley? Can you tell us that?
Well, it is a huge economic enabler here. It's responsible for conservatively $2 billion of activity, commercial activity in this region. It also houses about 200 businesses, and we have about 10,000 jobs that are associated with Van Nuys here. So it's really a crucial part of this region's economy.
That sounds like a lot of businesses. So what are some of those businesses?
There's all types of businesses. There's everything from flight schools to maintenance operations, fixed-based operators that are here. We have different types of people who serve the airport for different types of equipment, ground service equipment. We have people who provide catering to the fixed-base operators. So there's all types of businesses that are associated with operating general aviation aircraft.
In terms of the flight school, is that a benefit for the community?
Sure. There's about 20 flight schools that are based here, and they are very important for us to try to help people in the community learn how to fly, because we're very short in pilots. So getting people to learn how to fly either commercially or just recreationally is very important for the area. We have an observation deck where you can go and watch the aircraft take off. So that's something that you can always bring people to, and it's a pretty big hit for kids. Their parents bring their kids here all the time to watch the aircraft take off.
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to come back and take the tour.
Yes, it's a good amenity.
Local residents have been very vocal in the past about noise complaints and whatnot, and now there's concerns with the modernization. So how do you address those concerns?
Yes, we're doing many different types of initiatives to help to mitigate the impacts of the airport and the community. From a noise perspective, we have implemented a lot of different programs to help mitigate the noise. We are subject to federal regulations in operating this airport, and those federal regulations don't allow us to be able to restrict any specific types of operations or operations during any specific part of the day. But we have implemented, with the cooperation of all the people who operate out here, a lot of voluntary programs where we try to mitigate noise. One such program is an early turns type of program where we get a lot of awareness around and ask the pilots not to take early turns over the residential areas. And same with helicopters. So the way helicopters come in and at what angles and at what altitudes, we work with the helicopter operators to get them to to agree to take routes that are less impactful to the neighborhood from a noise perspective. And we have a volunteer curfew, if you will, where we try to get our operators not to fly between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. And we've been successful in limiting the number of flights during that period. Again, we're not able to completely ban operators, so we have to work with them, and they've been very cooperative in trying to help us to limit the number of flights that take off or land during that period. So it's just multiple types of activities that we're taking to try to mitigate the noise impact.
The Olympics are coming here and the World Cup. So how is LAX being ready for this huge influx of people?
So we have a huge transformation going on at LAX right now. A big part of that is our landside access modernization program, which is going to revolutionize the way people access the airport. And that includes our new automated people mover train. It's going to connect with a new economy parking lot, with our consolidated rental car facility, and it's going to connect with the Metro finally after so many years. But we also are modernizing all of our terminals and actually building a couple of new terminals. All of these projects that we're doing, certainly we want to have as many of them ready for the World Cup in 26 and then the Olympics in 28. But we would be doing all of these projects anyway. We need to do all these projects anyway, regardless of either of those events, in order to be able to accommodate the growth in the passenger numbers that are projected to come to this region. We are transforming both LAX and Van Nuys, but we're turning them into world-class airports that passengers want to come to instead of dreading to come to.
What does it mean to hold the purse strings for one of the largest economies in the world? Let's get to know Fiona Ma, who brings private sector accountancy experience to her public role as California State Treasurer. Her office is responsible for an average of 2.5 trillion bank transactions a year. That actually breaks down to almost 7 billion transactions a day. I am delighted to be joined today by the California State Treasurer, Fiona Ma. That's just unfathomable, just in terms of one piece of what your office does. So I think the basic question has to be, what is the State Treasurer's office responsible for?
Yes. So actually, post-COVID now, we've taken about $3.7 trillion. I know, that number has been going up. So I'm the banker. All the money comes into my office. I also invest the state's short-term portfolio, as well as the short-term investments for about 2,300 local government units. And I also sell all the bonds for the state of California, the UC and the CSU system. So that's like the banking side. Then over the years, I don't know if you remember Speaker Jess Unruh, when he became treasurer, he said, oh my God, we're sitting on so much money, we should be doing more. So now I fund and finance affordable housing, public transportation, schools, green energy, garbage and recycling, advanced manufacturing. I oversee 4 savings programs, and that's just within the Treasurer's office.
And actually, when you were elected state treasurer, you made history for a few reasons. First of all, you mentioned one of those very upfront. You're a CPA by trade. You were the first woman of color in that position, and you actually won by a huge amount of the vote.
I think the voters appreciate that I do have a accounting and finance background, but because of everything I've been doing, I know where the pots of money are.
Right.
I know who to call to get things done. I came from the private sector and now in the public sector, so focused on streamlining and making things easier for the constituents. And I go around the state. I love to travel. If you follow me on social media, I go everywhere and post everything that's amazing about this state. But while I'm out there, people want to know. I want to come to California. I want to expand. Today we're at Rivian in Irvine, and they want to expand, right? But for tax incentives, tax credits, they're like, why, is it so hard? Or, why don't we have more for this if we're going to be this e-mobility, state? And so those are some of the questions that I have to answer, and then I have to relay back to the governor, to the people that work for me in terms of trying to find buckets of money, trying to incentivize people, companies to stay here in California and grow here.
It is what, the 4th largest economy, or are we 5th or 4th?
5th or 4th, where we're teetering.
I mean, in the world. I mean,
the world.
It's literally a country unto itself.
Exactly.
And so all of those issues have to be addressed. How do we remain, first of all, how is that determined? How is that designation of 5th and or 4th economy determined?
It's usually the gross domestic product, so how much money the country takes in. So Germany still takes in a little bit more than we do, but we are definitely catching up.
What have you found to be the thing that people don't really know as well as they should about what the California State Treasurer's Office can and cannot do?
Yeah, so we offer a lot of resources through my office, whether it's small business loans. We rolled out a lot of grants during the pandemic. We issue bonds. And so a lot of people don't know that if you need money, maybe come to my office and we can help you, guide you, steer you, advise you, right? And so that is what I've been doing.
When we first were talking, you were talking about the fact that you've learned about the office and what's available, what is there, and that there's monies to be used for good. And I know that you personally have initiated some programs, especially focused on the youth of California to help them grow in a more robust, prosperous way. What are some of the things that you put into place that you are very proud of?
Yeah, so we oversee 4 savings programs. So the budget starts with the governor, and then the legislature has a role in tweaking the budget. And once it's set, they will give me money to administer the program. So every newborn right now can get anywhere from $100 to $150 in their child savings account, again, to grow for their college education. And then any 1st through 12th grader on free and reduced lunch, they are eligible for $500. If they're a foster youth, another $500, and if they're homeless, another $500. So this is $1,500 in free money that's available, and we are desperately trying to get the word out so parents and guardians can go on the website, calkids.org, and just click that this is our child, or this person is here and interested, and then that money will start growing. So thank you for allowing me to talk about some of these free money programs to help our next generation.
And where are we with supporting environmentally sound propositions for the future?
So we passed Prop 32 back in 2006, and we started the trend to set that bar to reduce the emissions back to pre-like 1996 levels. We have continued through Governor Jerry Brown and now Governor Gavin Newsom to increase those standards, those mandates. We are now the capital of the electric vehicle world, right? His last mandate was all passenger vehicles sold have to be electric vehicles by 2035. So that means there's an influx of EV charging companies, car manufacturers, battery storage. I mean, this is really where everything's happening.
Unrelated to all of these state subjects, you also are a member of SAG-AFTRA. So did you dabble in film and television at one point in time?
Yes, I did. So when Willie Brown was the mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown is an avid movie critic, but he loved having movies in San Francisco. So we had tons of filming. Robin Williams lived in San Francisco. Treasure Island was a big film studio. Nash Bridges was filming in San Francisco. Sure. And so I had a lot of extra, I call them Taft-Hartley extra work. Mm-hmm. And so I managed to do 3 Taft-Hartley projects, and that's how I got my SAG card. However, I have my card since 2007 and I've never earned a penny, but I continue to pay the dues and stand with my brothers and sisters who are out there on the picket line.
I was going to say that's one of the reasons that we have the good fortune of having you with us today, is that you are standing in solidarity with the Writers Guild and with SAG-AFTRA. So what have you seen and heard out there?
Well, things have changed, right? Post-COVID, a lot of streaming companies have come online, a lot of content's building, and AI. For example, I did not know that, the studios would like to use someone's likeness in whatever format they want without paying them any residuals. And so that is kind of the fight about the future, right? Actors, writers, they're the creative ones. They're putting in their sweat and tears. They went to school for that, and then they're not getting fairly compensated. Yet the studios are making a lot of money, all of them. And so this is what the fight is right now.
Well, and of course the entertainment industry at large is a critical industry here in Southern California.
Absolutely.
The entertainment capital, but it's also a good tax resource and also a good draw for tourism and all sorts of things. So I imagine that there is a governmental tie over and above the individuals that are in the strike. So you, as you mentioned, began this life of service a while back. What is your belief that government offers to the populace at large, but that also allows you to say, I'm giving my time and energy and passions towards this pursuit?
Yeah, I think government does provide the safety net. I think that's first and foremost. And a lot of people always say, well, why doesn't government act more like business? And I said, well, when business is doing great, everyone has a job, that's great. But when the economy goes down, people get laid off, all of a sudden, they don't have a job, they don't have health care, they don't have retirement, and then who's going to assist them? That's government. So government and business are not alike, but we work hand in hand, and it's important that both are doing their job.
All right, so if someone wants to find out about the Treasurer's Office and find out what you're doing and find out how they can access some of these programs that you have so generously shared with us today, what's the best way for people to find out?
Yep, my website is www.treasurer.ca.gov. Everything is on my website.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. This has been really, really wonderful. Thank you, and come back.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
And that's a wrap on this LA Current.